Coming up on this special Halloween edition of One-on-One Sports,
we sit down to discuss MLB free agency,
see which teams are sweet and sour in college football,
and look at the fastest trick-or-treater in NASCAR.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Matt Holzapfel.
And I'm Andrew Vandellis. Happy Halloween from all of us at One-on-One Sports to you. Before we get into the spooky episode, Matt and I are going to go trick-or-treating the quick hitters. For the first time in NFL history, the league has fired a referee mid-season. The league announced last week that Judge Hugo Cruz was fired due to a missed false start in the Chargers versus Browns game during Week 6. Matt, did the NFL overact with this firing? Plenty of refs have missed calls over the years.
Absolutely, this is absurd. And you got to think that it was a string of calls. Maybe this wasn't the first time they saw this, but there is no way that one call got this guy fired, because that just doesn't happen.
I agree.
The NFL officiating committee clearly has a 3-strike policy for all referees, so there has to be some precedent that happened before this call.
Here's another thing, too. It's a false start.
It was a bad false start, though.
But it wasn't like it was going to cost a game to anyone. That game was a shootout, unlike the Fail Mary or any other call.
The Chargers did score on that possession, and the false start was bad. I understand why they're upset.
A blowout.
I understand why they're upset, but you have to. Maybe it's something we don't know. I feel like we don't know enough to say whether it was an overreaction or not, and that's how I feel about that.
I just think they need to get their priorities right, like with the roughing the passer calls.
They get a lot of problems.
You know.
It's funny that the Browns have gotten rid of a kicker, receiver, running back, head coach, offense coordinator, and now a referee. Browns are a mess.
Speaking of Browns,
Cleveland sports look a lot different now than they did going into the weekend. On Saturday, the Cavaliers announced that head coach Tyronn Lue was fired following an 0-6 start to the season. On Monday morning, the Browns followed suit, firing Hugh Jackson, who had a 3-36-1 record over the past 3 seasons. Andrew, did one or both of these coaches deserve to get fired?
So Hugh's been a long time coming. Only 3 wins in his career, as you mentioned. He's never made a step towards improvement. With Tyronn Lue, he was barely the coach anyways with LeBron on his team. I don't think he got a fair chance. But what did the Cavs expect with LeBron? I mean, with LeBron gone, they still haven't won a game. But when they ship out talent like Kyrie, dip out on trades with Dwayne Wade, Jay Crowder, the list goes on, and your team captain leaves too.
They surely didn't expect to be in the cellar of the East, a weak East and 15th. But
I think the NBA Finals should have.
He's 128 and 83. A playoff record of 41-20. That's the second best playoff winning percentage of all time, ahead of Phil Jackson, only behind Steve Kerr. And yes, I know he had playoff LeBron on those Cavs teams, but still he's shown he knows how to coach in certain situations with the help of LeBron. I think this is way too soon.
Maybe
to fire
this is
Ty
a
Lue.
way of setting Ty Lue free. You know, maybe he can actually show his coaching skills somewhere else.
He deserves another job.
But with Hugh Jackson, let's talk about him for a second. He had not made one step of improvement. He had never asserted his dominance on the field at all, or in his coaches' meetings. I mean, we saw in Hard Knocks, Greg Williams and Todd Haley pushing him around essentially. At the same time, Hugh Jackson never feel like he had his stuff together.
And his 8-8 season in Oakland made his failure with the Browns made his 8-8 season look phenomenal because he was so bad with Cleveland. A 205 winning percentage and 3-36-1, like you said. I know the Browns are a bad team and it's tough to coach them into relevance, but he was around way too long.
He went winless too, and you could argue
he should have been gone right there.
You could argue that the Browns, that tie they have against Pittsburgh and a couple of those overtime losses could have been by bad play calling by Hugh Jackson. It could be Todd Haley's fault.
Todd Haley's gone too.
Yeah, exactly. Todd Haley, he got the boot from Pittsburgh, but I just think Hugh Jackson deserved it without a doubt. Ty Lue,
there's no reason he should have still been there after 0-16 in my eyes.
History was made this weekend in the world of professional fighting. Demetrius Johnson and Ben Askren were traded for each other in a historic deal. Matt, does this change anything about the landscape of the UFC?
It could, but I'm not saying for sure, and here's why. This wasn't necessarily a trade. Obviously, the guys were released from their brands and then allowed to sign contracts elsewhere. And you got to think, Askren said he was bored of one. He wanted a change of scenery, and that's exactly what this could be. This could be a potential change of scenery for athletes in the future who can't exactly get traded, but they could explore other contracts.
See, here's the thing. It's the first major trade in MMA history, and they traded champions. Obviously, it's a big deal. Demetrius Johnson said it himself. It's about trying something different. Not only does this give one, like the company that Ben Askren was for, some desperate exposure. It brings over a fighter, 34-year-old Ben Askren, who's 18-1 in his career, giving whatever division, welterweight or flyweight, whatever he does, a deadly fighter.
And this is good for Johnson too, because he is in the GOAT conversation in the MMA, right, or the UFC. But also, he was consistently the smallest fighter on their roster. Now that's no longer the case. He gets to fight guys who are more his size. He's no longer the smallest guy. And he could flourish just as Askren could flourish in the UFC. That's good for both guys and both brands.
It's a fantastic development, and we could see a lot more of these coming very soon.
I hope we do. On Sunday night, the Boston Red Sox captured their 9th World Series title and 4th in the last 18 years. Since 2001, Boston sports teams have won 11 championships, begging the question, is this the sports city of the century, Andrew?
All right, listen, Boston fans at Elon, I'm pandering to you. Yes, I know we're going to hear about it a lot. This is historic. Obviously, the leader here is the Patriots, 5 Super Bowl titles, all of them coming since 2000. But there's some outliers here as well. I do think they are a dynasty now and the most successful city so far. But the Celtics and the Bruins, only 1 title, obviously, for each of the teams. But Boston is a favorite in the East this year. The Bruins, not so much, but they can still find their footing. But you got to give all the credit to Tom Brady and the Pats here.
Yeah, since 2001, they've had 11 championships, including some in the same year. So if you're someone born in Boston as a sports fan in 2001, you have not known failure in sports.
No.
And across every sport.
These spoiled millennials,
The only years they haven't had a championship, 02, 05, 06, 09, 2010, 2012, 2015, 2017. In 2010 and 2012, they had a team in the finals and lose, so they were there anyway.
I was going to say, think about this. The Patriots, above everybody else, have seemingly made the Super Bowl every year, or at least are a number 1 or number 2 seed in the AFC as a whole. The Sox have firepower like never before. We're never going to hear these Bostonites shut up, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Alex Cora looks great, and they have the pitching staff. We know that Brad Stevens and Kyrie Irving are great for
Gordon
the Celtics.
Hayward as well.
And then obviously you have Belichick and Brady in New England, so it's just consistent dominance, and also they all have found their coaches and their stars.
They also have blossoming stars, Jason Tatum, Mookie Betts, who's established himself now. You have Josh Gordon on the Patriots as well, and it's just you're acquiring both outside and homegrown talent like that. Nothing stopping Boston.
Also, we can't overlook the fact that there's been no rebuilding period, especially with the Celtics. They moved on from the big 3, had a couple of years where it was Isaiah Thomas, a lot of draft picks. They turned that into Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford,
Jason Tatum,
Jaylen Brown. A fantastic core, which looks nothing like it used to, but they're still just as good.
Don't forget about Terry Rozier on the
bench, too.
Scary
Terry.
And this is certainly something spooky.
That's all the time we have for the quick hitters.
When we come back, I'll be joined at the desk to give some spooky warnings of some MLB general managers. MLB free agency is one of the craziest and scariest times for MLB general managers, as one big move can change the culture of a team for many years. Because navigating the chaotic time can be perilous, I'm here with Manny Tobe and Evan Piercy to give some big warnings to some of the biggest MLB teams before free agency. So Manny, we'll start with you in the Baltimore Orioles, obviously, finishing at a historical worst. What's your advice to them this offseason?
I have a whole lot of advice.
Let's hear it, as I would love to hear.
But I guess my main warning would be: don't be afraid to spend money. Don't be afraid to spend money. You have so many team needs. Put the money out there. Don't forget about your veterans as well. Don't forget about your prospects, but really put the money out there if you want to be good.
You don't know Peter Angelos.
The Orioles are notorious for not spending money, and honestly, I don't think I've seen a franchise in a worse state in my 21 years of life than the Baltimore Orioles. My thing to them is rebuild. Dylan Bundy, I say trade him. Yes, his ERA is a little high at 5.4, but he's a very controllable pitcher. He has years still left on his rookie deal before he hits arbitration. Trade him, sell him as high as possible, get prospects, and just develop. You're going to be bad for a long time.
Oh, it's going to be a long time.
All right, Evan. Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Evan, so we'll move to the San Francisco Giants. What do you have to say for them?
This team has been mediocre since 2016, but they've been afraid to admit they're mediocre. They are still stuck on them doing that even year thing where they come out every even year as world beaters and win the World Series. It is over. You saw them get Andrew McCutchen in the offseason. You saw they saw them trade him in August. This team needs to ditch. I really wish they sold Madison Bumgarner earlier because he's been hurt. He had the scooter incident. His value is not what it used to be, and that's going to hurt the team because if they try to move on, they aren't going to be able to get anything in return.
I agree with
for him.
Evan 100%. I feel like this is a team that needs to rebuild. They need to start rebuilding. You know, they've lost 187 games in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
The last time that they've lost that many games, 1985, 1984. It's been some time since they've been this bad. It's about time that they start rebuilding and they start taking it serious.
Posey, I think, needs to go. I think there needs to be a lot of changes. It needs to be a new look Giants, and it needs to happen soon. The thing is I don't know what you're going to get for him.
All right, last but not least, Manny, Chicago Cubs.
Chicago Cubs. So my warning is don't pay Cole Hamels too much. Don't spoil him. I really like Cole Hamels. I really do. But right now he's sitting at an option, 1 year, $20 million. That's a whole lot of money. And my advice, my warning, you could restructure that. His agent said that he wants a new contract. He wants an extension. What you could do is you could give him a 2-year, let's say $24 million deal, $12 million a year. But do not pay this man $20 million, especially with him being a 34-year-old pitcher.
Yeah, so with them, candy, Halloween theme, Three Musketeers, they're missing that third musketeer. It was supposed to be Schwarber. He's terrible. Get rid of him. Pursue Bryce Harper because no other team is going to do it. In my opinion, no other team is going to give Bryce Harper that money. You're one of the teams that can do it. Put him out there, replace Schwarber because Schwarber he's not up to what Rizzo and Chris Bryant are.
That's all the time we have to talk about the upcoming MLB season.
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. Plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
RBIs and 36 homers. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it deep back into the stands.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
With 3 races left in the NASCAR Cup season, the fight to be in the Championship 4 at Homestead is getting fierce. After a tough short track battle at the Paperclip Martinsville, 2 races remain for drivers to claim their ticket to Ford Championship weekend. I'm here with David Flint to break down who the fastest trick-or-treater is. So David, we'll start with Joey Logano. Is he a threat to win the championship?
I'd say he is. He got that big win at Martinsville, kind of booting Martin Truex out of the way in the final corner, which it's Martinsville short track racing, that's what you do. Truex wasn't happy about it. Logano said, hey, I had to win, and he did. Yeah. And with Ford horsepower, the greatness that the Fords have all had really collectively as a unit this year, and the experience of being there before in the Championship 4 for Joey Logano and crew chief Todd Gordon, I see no reason that they couldn't compete.
Definitely. So how will the movement of the start-finish line at Phoenix affect moves that drivers try to pull on restarts?
It was an interesting move that Phoenix made because they moved the start-finish line and they moved some grandstands, but the actual track configuration did not change. The line is just on the opposite side of the racetrack, and pit road has been moved to the opposite side as well. On restarts, you may see a little more 3-wide racing. You can drive a little deeper into that corner, the dogleg in the backstretch. So maybe 3-wide, 4-wide if you're getting really bold to make a move. I wouldn't advise doing that, but wouldn't put it past drivers to do either. But overall, the race strategy, I don't think is going to be that much different. The track's the same. I expect the guys that are good at Phoenix to be good there still. Kevin Harvick, who's still in the championship fight. Brad Keselowski, who's no longer in that fight. Kyle Larson, usually good at Phoenix as well. So I don't really expect much different of a race, but the restarts may be a little more hectic.
Definitely. So which driver not currently in the top 4 for you is most likely to get in before Homestead?
I would say Kurt Busch in the 41 car. That team has just been so consistent this year. Only 1 win in the August race in Bristol, but so consistent. Roush Yates engine power at Homestead on the 1.5 miles. If you can keep it wound up on the top lane, nothing's going to stop that. He's been a champion before, won Ford's last championship actually way back in 2004. And there's rumors that he may not be back in that race car next year, maybe switching teams. So kind of would be a bookend for him to win the 04 title for Ford and win the 2018 title for Ford as well if he can do it.
Definitely. Well, we've handed out all the NASCAR treats, and up next, Matt will be sitting down with a very special guest to discuss the hottest esports.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new check. What did I do? Okay, wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi! God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
Just recently, Tyler Ninja Blevins became the first esport athlete to appear on ESPN the magazine's front cover, a major milestone for competitive gaming. With the rise of Fortnite and esporting competitions like the 2K League, we are delighted to have with us Sophie Zavada and the new Dean of Elon School Communications, Dr. Rochelle Ford. Thank you both for joining us. We're going to break down the rise in competitive gaming and where it can go from here. So what I want to know is, can gaming take center stage on television in the next 10 or so years?
Well, I think it can. I think that esports is really thriving in terms of popularity among Gen Z, among millennials, and even some Gen Xers are getting into the game as well. And it's a global phenomena. And so if you even look at, this summer, just the one of the tournaments that was held up in the Barclays Center, it was on ESPN. Like, I was sitting in a restaurant, a jazz club of all things in Atlanta, and on ESPN Live was this tournament. And so I think that it is going to continue to grow in popularity, and particularly as a lot of the traditional sports teams, the NFL and the NBA and what have you, are owning their own teams. I think it's only going to explode even more.
Well, I definitely agree that it is huge in popularity right now, but I think a large reason it's been so popular is because it's, it came to be on this internet platform, and these streaming platforms have really been able to foster this community where gamers and viewers are able to interact with each other. And I think because of that, it's really become immensely popular and unique. And I think when you go and you put it on television, it sort of takes away that factor that really leads to why it is so popular and why it has been so sustainable. And I think if you were to put it on TV, you'd really lose that. So I definitely think it can be on TV, but personally, I wouldn't want to see it go there.
I really love that interactive thing. It's kind of become what online gaming and online watching is. So
yeah.
I want to ask you, we've seen the 2K League, which is pretty recent. They just finished their first season. What's the next sport that's going to have their next kind of like online video game league? Could it be FIFA, Madden? What do you think?
Well, I personally think it would be FIFA. I think with soccer being such a popular sport, it really opens up the opportunity for this professional league to go beyond the US and really hit Europe, different areas, and have sort of teams compete across national borders. And I think that would be something that's fascinating and definitely something that would increase the popularity of esports, especially into Europe.
So I think that the global nature of I'm going to say it is football for the rest of the world.
We'll
FIFA is,
soccer,
yes, but sure.
Right.
So soccer, I think that you're right. It would have that global appeal because esports already is a global phenomena, and so
exactly.
Eastern Europeans are into it. You have so many of the Koreans and other Asian countries are into it. Then you have the North America, South. I mean, it is already a global thing, and so if you take another global pastime like football or soccer. Absolutely. I think that it's very fruitful for
yeah,
opportunity.
And obviously when there's a big fan base for the sport, obviously the video games come with that, and that's why they've been so popular, I think. All right, we're going to wrap up with this. How long do you guys think until esports is mentioned in the same conversation as the major four sports like baseball, basketball, hockey, and football? Is that something we're going to see soon?
I think so. I think, as it was said, like the League of Legends championship competition a few years ago had an immense viewership. The industry's like $900 million, I think is projected to be by the end of like 2018. Like that's incredible. I think because of the amount of money, the amount of popularity that's around this, I definitely think that given time it will, especially as it's seen as almost a more sustainable sport than the ones such as like football and hockey that are very prone to injury. I think it definitely could enter there.
So I think that there's a space for both. It's a both and proposition. Yeah. It's not an either or. I think that there are among certain populations, it already is a both and proposition.
Sure, yeah.
And so like even my son, he loves playing baseball and getting out there with his friends and doing that, but then he's also a really big esports fan and has his own teams and leagues and things that he follows, and when he's watching television, he's more likely to watch an esports tournament than he is to watch like a baseball game on television. He's more likely to play baseball, but he's more likely to watch esports. So I think it's a both and proposition, and particularly as esports, as they get into a lot of different types of games and they begin to open up things that didn't have the platforms before, that they're able to become competitive, it'll be an exciting proposition.
Definitely.
So we've talked about 2K, FIFA, a bit about Fortnite. I want to know from you guys, what is your favorite video game to play, to watch in general? Either one.
I'm going to be honest, I struggle to even turn on an Xbox. But I really do enjoy, I think, watching the sports one, since I do really enjoy sports in general, watching them play and watching these players both interact on the court but also at their consoles it's really fascinating, and it's kind of cool to see how they can be teammates both on the court there and sort of off in the personal setting.
So the one that I've watched the most has been actually Super Smash Brothers.
Okay,
and so, well, it is a throwback, and actually Nintendo is coming out with a way to make it more enjoyable to watch from the competitive landscape, and that's the one that my son has played competitively and what have you. But I'm learning the other one, so the whole faculty in the school communications was required to play Fortnite, and I thought that it was going to be a very short tournament, and there's some people who were going more than 20 minutes, and I was like, we need to move on to our next thing, and they were actually really good. So, but I would have to say Super Smash is the one that I've seen the most, so I'd probably have to say the one I like the most, but I have lived more than 5 minutes now on Fortnite.
Gaming world is booming. Super exciting to see where it goes. Thank you guys both for coming on the show. That's all the time we have for this block. Again, another thank you to Dr. Ford for joining us, obviously Sophie for joining us on this special gaming block. Thank you guys both.
Up
next, Andrew and I will be discussing which athletes have donned the best costumes for Halloween. Don't be afraid to stick around. A lot of people like to dress up as professional athletes for Halloween, but we can't forget about the athletes themselves. It's the one night of the year where they can rock a different costume than the one they normally would. So Andrew, what athlete has brought out all the stops and had the best Halloween costume?
This one's recent. It comes last year, 2017. LeBron James is Pennywise, complete full-on with the outfit, mask, and the voice.
He went all out for that one.
Voice, I didn't expect it from
terrifying.
LeBron. He looked scary as heck, and he dressed in a costume we won't forget for a long time.
Especially because he's like a hometown hero, like big popular guy, and
he's such a hero, yeah.
And everyone's
he
like,
might be a villain in
get away
Cleveland
from me.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So. I said last year as well, so Randy Moss and Charles Woodson dressed as each other.
Oh my God.
And it was so great because you have Woodson in the Vikings jersey, Moss in the Raiders jersey. Now, Moss did play for the Raiders, but for Packers fans to see Charles Woodson like this in a Vikings jersey is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's our rival, and you're seeing one of our best players here in the Vikings jersey. I also love the eye black, the afro. They went all out, and you love it because they always go back and forth on TV, but to see them dress as each other, it was great to see the friends do that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for this block and this episode of One-on-One Sports.
Big thanks goes out to all of our producers, crew, talent, and you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you like what you saw and want to see more, be sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all at One-on-One Sports.
That's all of us from here in the studio, so until next time.
Whose side are you on?